we both were like, we do not want to not see him every day. So we figured out a plan to see him every day. Now, this is not conventional, but it has really allowed me to fine-tune communication skills and invite collaboration when at one time it seemed impossible.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Dads on Purpose, the podcast. I'm your host, Josh Ashford. And as always, got the big homie KB, Mr. Kevin Brigance. He's a little bit quieter today because he's in the coffee shop. What up, Kev?
What up, family? Listen, I'm so excited to be here on the podcast as always with my boy Josh. It's going down.
I can't do it, man. Like Jen, I don't know if you've seen any other episodes, but it's usually big energy. You know what I mean? But you know, you're in a coffee shop, you got that quiet, nice, soft music over there. Anyways, we got company. Jen Gallagher, right?
Yes.
Co-parenting coach. How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. And she's joining us from sunny Palm Beach County, Florida.
Yep.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
So
75 degrees, huh?
Bruh.
Yeah, it's hot. I mean,
75, old and wrinkly. Not her, everybody else.
Yep, everybody else. But the snowbirds are flying home. So
wait, how long are they usually there? Do they they just do the bi-coastal thing?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell when all the moving trucks, the car transports are on the side of the road.
I kind of like that because, this has nothing to do with nothing, but just being honest, I like people, but to an extent, right?
Yeah.
And so when I start seeing trucks leaving, that's when I'm coming outside. I don't know. Anyways, yo, we only got a little bit of time because Kev got a meeting, and that's my bad for scheduling. So it is what it is. But let's just get into this. So I want to go straight for it. So Jen, how do you introduce yourself? And then I'm gonna go for the first question.
Okay. So my name is Jen Gallagher. I am a co-parenting coach, but I'm also a single mom myself who co-parents with my son's dad. I prefer calling him my son's dad because that's exactly what he is.
What else would you call him besides your baby daddy?
I call him because we never were married. So a lot of times that is terminology that people throw around, ex. Co-parent, but because my whole philosophy is bringing it back to parenting versus Xing. In reality, he is my son's dad. So why would I call him anything else than that or by his first name? But for anonymity's sake.
That's good. But I don't know if I've ever thought about that. Look, praise God, I'm still married. You know what I mean? I'm married, my kids, we good. But I'm I never thought about that, not calling oh, my kids, or you know what I mean, or my ex, right? Yeah. Because I feel like that puts it on you and not the child, right?
Mm-hmm. It puts it on the adult dynamic versus the parent or the parent-child dynamic. So,
I feel like that's a whole episode by itself.
It is.
Well, that's the whole backbone to my whole philosophy and approach.
Yo, all right. So let's get into it. So here's my first question. So, and I guess this ties into what we're talking about right now. Granted, every situation is different. Kind of how you just said in different labels and things like that. They might be ex-spouses or, whatever. But so it's always different. There's so many different dynamics. But on a grand scale, how do most people get co-parenting wrong?
They focus on the adult relationship. So I like to call it Xing because in reality, unless you have different motives, the only reason why you would be talking to an ex that you no longer vibe with, any reason for the part, you just grow apart. Realistically, you wouldn't be still having them in your life, to an extent, in a broad spectrum.
Yeah.
If you have a child. So it's that is the only reason in a way that you are still communicating. So that is why, sorry, I just got in a brain fart. So that's Xing is the main what I notice that a lot of times gets in the way with effective co-parenting. And when I say effective, that looks different for everybody, because there are so many nuances to parenting in general.
Yeah.
But then also situations like it would be so difficult for me to have to put a disclaimer on everything.
Yeah.
So really what it is like if the content that I put out there for being more conscious and collaborative and things like that are a safety concern, then kind of obviously it doesn't apply.
What do you mean?
So like, okay, I have MS. So my one foot is paralyzed. I can't do certain things that exercise people tell me. Now, if someone said, oh, I can teach anybody how to do a plank. Well, I can't put my body weight on one of my feet. So obviously that does not apply to me.
Yeah.
So it's like, obviously it's not everybody, but you just take the pieces that apply to you in your personal situation.
That's good. That's really good.
So I really, really like to not make black and white promises or, definite statements. I like to use the words like may and might, and really just to allow the either like audience or if I'm working with a client, allow them to have that power to think about how that could apply. And then also give them that power that if it doesn't, then they can, set it aside. It prevents a lot of guilt and shame, cycle where it could also happen when we get to parenting because we feel so strongly about parenting and it's a very vulnerable.
Yeah. I was about to say like our views and what. Yeah.
So
yeah. I find it interesting. Like the Xing, right? It's like, okay, yeah, I had this relationship with you. I don't have this relationship with you anymore, but I gotta have a relationship with you because I'm the king. And then I wonder how often are you seeing co-parenting where it's always still based on the adult and not the child? Because I know for us, we always talk about what's in the best interest of the child, what's in the best interest of the child, what's in the best interest of the child, until you hurt my heart, you cause me distress, I'm mad and frustrated, and so it's the Xing thing that I really like about it. But my question, and I might be jumping the gun, but how do you get people to focus on like, hey, I know you had this relationship, but it's not about the relationship, it's about your child.
Mm-hmm. So how I kind of focus on it is that I talk about values a lot and like personal values, because that really shows up in just relationship dynamic, how we interact in the world and is completely reflective of our parenting and how we choose to parent. So the thing about that phrase, which is so common where it's like in parenting, it's like, best for your child. Yeah. Well, you also have somebody else who knows best for their child. And so that best may not look like your best. And even married couples don't necessarily have the exact same best.
Preach it.
Look, me and my wife we didn't have a fight, but we had a fight and she didn't know about it.
Between parents in general, because you're two humans with two different life lenses, two different childhood experiences, two different, even though you complement each other, like in a, loving, romantic relationship, you're able to more collaborate and come to like an even ground easily. But then when it's Xing, it puts a whole new spin on it, because it's like we see parenting content, and a lot of times unfortunately, like in the mom world, especially. And that's why I love dad's content where it's like, oh, mothers know best, mothers know best. And, coming from, because I also have a therapy background. So I have a master's degree in clinical social work. So it's a strength best kind of philosophy or base philosophy. And then, and my concentration was childhood development. So it was a lot of like parents, families, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So you have this like this almost society saying like, moms know best, moms know best, moms know best. But like dads, when they're, when there's a presence in even moms, like you can't like necessarily like stereotype it in a way.
Yeah.
There are some biological components to like the way that a female body changes, where the oxytocin and things like that, where yes, there is some biological components, but connection does not limit the possibility of connection with a father who didn't necessarily physically hold a child in their body.
Yeah.
So that doesn't limit the possibilities of somebody else having connection.
I'm glad you said that.
Because there is biology to it, and then there's and then there's also that connection factor, which is the backbone of all relationships. So the oxytocin and like that dynamic, it almost puts like an easier kind of tip onto it, like especially babies.
Yeah.
But it does not limit the.
What do you see? Yeah. What do you see most of the time for? And so we're talking to dads right now. Like, shout out moms if you listen, we appreciate you, but this ain't your part.
I work with actually more dads than moms, which on one-on-one, which is interesting because most of my content followers are moms. So, but I work with dads. So.
Welcome to the hood. What do you see mostly as far as like interactions with you that a lot of dads struggle with, especially non-custodial dads? Does that make sense?
Yeah. What do they struggle with? Well, the whole thing with court language too is so tricky, because I know for there's a lot of different, like, even if you say the word like custodian or like custody, like where do we really first go to with custody? We go through somebody who is imprisoned and has to be removed from and kind of captured in this thing. So it's like, why would we first put like a, like
Look,
almost?
I'm just using the language.
No. But this is, absolutely. Because the language also is, people know what that means, you know? But like when you come from more of like this mindset, it's like, okay, so let's shift out of the courtroom, when you are parenting, into this like parenting mindset. And it's like, hey, yeah, that's your kid's dad. You know what I mean? Like
I guess what will we use in replace? Is that the right replace in whatever? What we use instead of non-custodial parent? Because that sounds legal as hell.
Yeah. So they're in their care. I like to say, versus like time sharing, where and I like to say the name of the kid, like Susie Q is in dad's care right now. Gotcha. So it's not like dad's time, because really it's the kid's time.
Ooh.
You know what I mean?
That's good.
Because
it's the kid's time.
Because that's the whole thing in parenting, is like we're raising a kid for a kid to have their own life, not just for us to have a possession.
Yeah.
But why would it be our time? It's really the kid's time.
But I think that's the issue. I think, I'm sorry, but I think just when I think about the whole separation, it's like possession. It's not like, hey, this is our kid. It's my kid. And it's not just your kid. Because I find myself when I'm mentoring kids and I'm meeting the parents and finding out that they're co-parenting or single parenting, and they're like, what's wrong with my kid? And I was like, well, number one, where's the dad? Because a lot of the characteristics, a lot of the gene pool, it's not just coming from you, it's coming from them. And so they'll be able to understand the kid if you don't just try to possess this kid to be your own.
Fun fact,
our kid.
Jen posted something about that, and it's quite informational. I think it's on your Facebook page, and it might be the last post you posted on there. It was back in like February. Only reason why I know is because I was creeping and I saw it, and you were talking about how we use the word "my," like my mailman, my child. Yeah. And then like
identification. Yes.
Yeah. Is that what it's called?
Well, yeah, because in all other things, we use the word like "my" as in like identifying. Whereas when we talk about children, we use it in a possessive factor, where it's like my mailman. I don't own my mailman. but somewhere, like with kids, especially because they're vulnerable and they literally need us for support to survive.
Yeah.
We take that as like this power trip dynamic and forget they're little people. So, but what you're saying is about that, like almost like possession of kids is not even just in this world. I mean, this is just like a little bit, but it's in parenting in general and how society views children, as they don't really see them as like full identities, feelings. It's almost like, oh, you should go in the corner and,
What did they say back in the day? Kids meant to be seen and not heard.
Not heard.
Yes.
I don't know. Is that just a Black community thing, or is that everything?
No, that's like a
Look,
whole
all I know
boatload
is
of society. Yeah, no, that's across the board. Is that thinking? I mean, like it's they call it childism. So today's now in like a sociology and kind of research like that. They call it
that's the real word.
Childism.
Hey, let's go back to my question because we never answered that.
Sorry.
I just what as far as like dads with the dads that don't have Susie Q in their primary cut. Damn, I messed up again.
Primary care, they're not in their care all the time.
Like there we go.
They're not doing overnights, or they're not more like
whatever it is. Y'all know what we talking about, man. Just listen to the information. Go ahead, right?
So what would I say about dads with that? And it's hard because it's like and I understand and I empathize, even though that I can't be in their shoes because I am literally a mom. So there is some limitations with that. Yeah. However, I always like to play like devil's advocate in a way of like really thinking about, okay, so a dad has, they are a parent. And there's no reason why to say like, oh, they're not as good of a parent if they're present. You know what I mean?
Well, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's flip it. And then let's talk about moms that have, primary care, custody, whatever. And some of the things that you see with them with good interactions with their baby's father, baby daddy, baby maker.
So there are most in like the conscious parenting world, because that's a lot of.
What does that mean?
Okay, so conscious parenting is really seeing a child for an individual and treating them with respect, and really breaking the generational cycles that why a lot of times there's people in therapy, as in this like millennial, generation, and
such as
like spanking and just the whole cycle of violence, and that's how you solve problems. It's all taught like very young, and it's taught like, you need to respect me, but when you're screaming at your kid, you need to respect me. Are you showing them what that looks like? Because kids don't actually learn through language. They learn by seeing what you're doing, and then they can put the pieces together, but they see and they model first. So they have the perception of that's respect when you're yelling at me. So I have to mirror that. And then it's a cycle of cycle and cycle and cycle. And then they get shamed for doing something that they see is happening and or punished. And it's so damn confusing.
Okay, back to the question.
Wow.
No, I appreciate that, because I don't. We don't want to assume that everybody knows exactly what we're talking about, and sometimes you listen to things like I listen to investing stuff, and like I have a very good working knowledge of what they're talking about, but they start talking about such and these type of things and and somebody might just be like, "Yo, like you just lost me at like end."
Yeah.
And I love the definition, because oftentimes we hear conscious parenting and all people think is the spanking, not looking at them as an individual and treating them as an individual. People just say conscious parenting, oh, I must spank my child. Like, and it's not like outside of just spanking, but are you treating your kid as an individual and asking for the same respect in a way that you would want to be asked?
Yeah, and mirroring those values. Because a lot of times, like, oh, we want to be respected, we want to be, treated with kindness and things like that. But it's like, are you using those values that you have as a person and the relationships that you want to seek, like the reason why you are Xing? Like, do you put them in your parenting?
Yeah.
Because they see that. They see you disrespecting dad. And it's like, but I love dad. And I don't know why you're disrespecting him. So it's like, should I not like dad? Like, I want somebody to make them happy. And it's so confusing. And then parents say, oh, you're picking sides and you're trying to, and with young kids, this is just this is just development. This isn't like brainwashing or anything. This is like natural development where they want to please us for survival. So, and then if we encourage them to speak up and have their own voice and say like, no, like I want to go to daddy's house, like that does not mean that they don't love you.
I'm laughing because Kev just like jumped.
Like, but I would love for you to speak on that because I think that's important. I think even when I think about co-parenting, like I feel like the primary parent feels guilt because the kid speaks up and says, I want to go spend time with dad, or I want to go spend time with mom. And it's not that the kid doesn't love you. They have a whole parent that they want to have time with, but because of the custodial, it's not his day, it's not his weekend, it's not, and now I think, man, that was just good. That was just good in the whole, because now you're bridging the gap. Like they're getting their ideas out of the way that you're treating the other spouse or the other parent. And then when they speak up and like we were saying, your feelings and how you feel. So when they say, I want to go spend time with the other parent, you're not thinking about the kid who has emotions, who has feelings, who has a desire. You're thinking about, oh, that girl hurt me, or that person treated me wrong, or they stepped out on me, and you want to go hang out with him?
Yeah, or that person is going to do this with everybody. Where it's like, no, your relationship, your dynamic didn't click. And that does not constitute that they have this dynamic in all other relationships that don't click.
Boy.
So
y'all better listen up. Now, back to my question.
Yeah. I know I can go on tangents. If you've ever seen my stories, they get real long.
No, you're good.
But it's good information.
No. That's why I let it run, because I'm like, yo, like this is like super solid. But eventually, look, we're gonna spend this whole episode trying to answer this one question. And eventually I'm gonna forget what it is. But we're talking about, advice that, or what do you see in moms that they're getting from the other parent that doesn't have full custody, right? That works well. And so you mentioned conscious parenting, and that's where we took off on a tangent.
So what works well is also, I think society really screws it up a little bit.
Well, absolutely. 100%.
About like, really like dogging dads and like, kind of putting it down. And then also there's this like thing too with resources. And that's why I love like dad resources, where like mom resources are like all over the place.
Yeah.
So you can just say like, like mommy Facebook groups, they're everywhere and they're crazy. But they're everywhere. And dad stuff is smaller, like when so I've been co-parenting from the beginning. So my son's dad and I parted right before I found out I was pregnant. So,
it's like, hey, by the way.
Exactly. was not good. It's definitely not good.
I did this on purpose. Sorry, go ahead.
I get that in an email.
In an email, not a text. You know what? Never mind.
Yeah. It was a rough story. And that's, the hurt. There's a lot of stuff that you have to get through to realize, okay, they are an equal parent just as you are. So the resources. So I would look at it like this is understand that dads don't actually have the resources. So the readily available resources.
Mm.
So it's going to look different. Also in our generation, men or boys, it wasn't like, oh, boys babysit all the time. So a lot of these nurturing factors too, that like you learn how to change a diaper, you learn all these things that when you babysit and when you baby dolls, let's just talk about like toxic masculinity, like that boosts up the caring and the role playing that only girls do. Mm. So it's like all these skills too. And then the moms dog the dads on, they don't know how to take care of a baby. And it's like, that might be the first time they're changing a diaper.
I sure the hell don't.
No, but it's like, did you take the time to show them how to change a diaper? Like, because the whole goal is for your child to have their diaper changed. Yeah. It's not that they don't know how to change a diaper. So how do you meet that end goal?
Yeah.
You'd be like, hey, I think it's funny. Do this way or that way.
Kev, you breaking up. Go ahead.
My bad. I think I got bad internet connection. But I think that's funny you say that, because I think about the difference between me and some of my counterparts, and I realized that over the time or over my learning years, I've had the opportunity to change my cousin's diapers. I had the opportunity to make my cousins a water bottle, bottles. I had those opportunities. So when I became a dad, it was like, oh, all right, I'll see you later. I got Kindle. I know what I need to do. I need to change the diaper. I'm there. I'm not weirded out. I'm not freaked out about it, because I've had those experiences and not been in a toxic environment to where it was like, oh, men don't do that. Boys don't do that. Go outside and play. But it was more so, hey, you're helping out the family. And I'm learning these skills that I didn't know that I needed when I became a dad, but I learned those skills. So now that I'm a dad, it's like, oh.
Yeah. And that's based on family value systems. So it's like it all comes back to values and things like that.
Sorry.
I think there's a lot of that where it's like the moms are like, oh, you don't even know how to do this. You're a bad parent. And it's like, well, do you have the patience to see that develop and grow? Because I know in my situation where my son's dad did not babysit, he did not have that prior experience. And I knew that. And I knew that the resources were limited. So it's like, of course, I'm going to take that in consideration and invite him over, to watch me. I mean, and then it's a fine line of.
I was like, because that's not really, that's not.
Oh, I did it all the time. I had to, because it's like, how are we going to, because unless he's going to have his mom there all the time, like I want him to be able to have that like integrity of being able to, and feel confident in taking care of our.
Sorry, because I know we're running out of time. How did you approach that? Because men got egos, right? And we're fragile, like we're fragile as hell, and admitting the fact that we don't know something, and then having, especially when you're co-parenting someone that you had some sort of relationship with, like whatever. We don't get into that. Now having to admit like, hey, I need your help. Like we're no longer like, hey, can you help me? And so I know it has to do with both of you being mature, but like, how did you approach that? Because look, let's keep it 100. Like in the Black and brown community, like that invitation is not always met with a attitude of we good. Like, let's just do what's in the best interest of the kid. That's the whole question. Sorry.
Parenting is a very, very personal thing, and there's a lot of ego across the board. But if we do say that, the stereotype, men don't like to ask for directions, so
Sure don't.
it's kind of like that. And now, as a mother, I understand that, and I have the benefit of being a former therapist to really, understand that. And instead of saying, and then also because of this is what I do, I know child development. I am a trigger. I am a trigger of my college degree,
Yeah.
and me saying anything can be taken the wrong way. So what I do, and then I encourage others to do, is to show and say we changed our shoes because we had such problems. I got him these shoelaces because it was so much easier for school for him to do this. Not hey, you keep on getting the same shoes with laces. He's 3 years old. He can't tie his shoes, and it's a pain in the butt. And so instead of me saying why are you getting the same shoes? What are you, stupid? Any of that kind of stuff. It's no, we got these shoelaces. It came in a pack of 10. Here, I thought these might be helpful. Or not even helpful. It's hey, I got this for you. It'd be so much easier for you. And then speak to the values. It's it'd be so much easier for you to help him put on his shoes. It would be faster.
That's it right there. That's good.
The end goal, because some people think it's manipulation or, kind of thing. But if you're speaking to the values, though, everybody wins.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
True.
That's really
true.
Good.
But I guess in some sense, it could still be manipulation.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's manipulation in the definition of the word.
Yeah.
Malice to it, which a lot of times when we think of manipulation, there's a malice component to it.
Yeah. And this, what I heard was, you need help. Instead of me talking and dogging you on the help that you need, it's my child too. And I often told this to my teenage fathers and teen mothers. I'm your goal is not to say he can't. Your goal is to say, how do I know that my kid is safe and well taken care of when he's with him? And how can I support that? And I think this is good too, because I think about fathers who take really good care of their kids, but then they send their kids to their mother and then they have concerns about the mother. Well, I'm not buying what my kid needs and what they need for support as if they need to go buy it themselves. I want to make sure that you're equipped so we can be on the same page. Mm-hmm. So we can win together. Not I already paid you child support. Why am I buying you shoelaces? I'm buying you shoelaces because I want to help you and I want to support you. And this is the value. And I think this is something you said earlier in the podcast, is the values that we have that's going to drive us into raising our kids. I think that's really good. Did she answer your question, Josh? Because I got a question about the values.
No, that did. Yeah. No, that answered my question. Go ahead, Kev.
So my question about the values was not even, because I wonder how many people have you met that didn't even have personal values in their life before they even had values for their kids. And then how do values, when they learn, okay, I need to have these values for my kids so I can address my co-parenting with these values. How did it help the co-parenting relationship from there?
Well, so there are some, because there's always some values. Now, morals are a little different, but there's all these beliefs where universally, you're not going to talk to a person who's I love to be disrespected. You know what I mean? So respect would be a value of yours. Now, the value that you have is that you want personal respect. Well, to get personal respect, you have to give personal respect because that is a value. So it is universal. And so that if you want that you have to do that without conditions, which is something that we don't like to do in society, where it's I'm going to treat you the way you treat me. But then it's it's a cycle of treating each other badly, where it's if you have values and integrity is a good value, then you're going to say oh, I'm going to, initiate kindness, not necessarily niceness or being walked all over, but you're going to be hey, daddy. And when you're walking with your kid for, transition day, and it's how are you? where it's not like you're doing anything with these ulterior motives. I hate that business style. There's a lot of times when people say like treat co-parenting as a business. And it's like, no, I'd rather interact with my son's dad as like more than an acquaintance, but we like have a relationship where it's not like so intimate and personal, but it's like, I see my son's dad every day. So, really? And I know this isn't most cases, but we both were like, we do not want to not see him every day. So we figured out a plan to see him every day. Now, this is not conventional, but it has really allowed me to fine tune communication skills and invite collaboration when at one time it seemed impossible.
Bro, I'll be pissed. I'm like, you done tricked me into having this kid and now I got to see you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing. Both of our end goals were to have our kid every day. So how are we going to do that? Yeah, you know what I mean? How are we going to do that? We're going to have to find a way to coexist.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
So I'm getting your business. How does that work for you and him as far as your own relationships? Not with you guys, each other, but with other people.
Interesting. So I have not started dating since, and this was 6 years. So he's been the last person that I've been in a relationship with or been on a date with. Dad recently got married. So met somebody, got married, or met somebody, moved in, got married, and had a baby in a year and like 2 months.
Yeah. I mean, but that's typical because studies show men need someone to take care of them.
Yeah. Well, no, that I knew that was a value of family was having a bigger family and having more kids was something that I knew my son's dad wanted to do. So it was like, why would I think that it wouldn't happen? Now, the impact it's had on our son has been a great impact. Now, is that necessarily a negative long-term impact? No, as long as you acknowledge their experience to this impact, but it has impacted behavior. It's impacted, a lot of things that, if anything, if like you move, like that's going to impact your kid.
Yeah.
Because it's going to, so you have to understand that, like, yes, they're excited that they have a new sister or brother. Like, yes, it's exciting to move and they like the new family. That doesn't invalidate the excitement, but their whole world is like changed and what they knew is different. And then there's this other person that everyone's hyping up saying stepmom, but as a 5-year-old, they've always called this other person mom. So it feels really weird because they don't understand context.
That's cool.
It's just weird. So it's obviously they're going to maybe not hug the other person if they feel that way. And we don't really necessarily know what they're feeling, but it's not unnatural. It doesn't mean the kids hate you or not going to love you, in the future. It's like they might be just slow to warm up to people.
That's good. Yeah, that's real good.
That's real good.
I know that I try to allow my son I give him permission to have a relationship with his, dad's wife, his stepmom. And like, if I say stepmom, it's a huge trigger for my son. And they get along great. It's just a trigger. Like he does not want to call it. So I follow the lead and just say the name. Like preparing for the baby. We have a baby doll. So I put it out on the couch and I let him kind of follow the lead and he asked questions and he did not want this baby. He did not want this baby at all. He did not want to be a big brother. He did not want it. And that's normal. And that is normal. But a lot of times it's like they take, it's this whole personal thing where it's like, he doesn't, the mom's brainwashing him. And no, all kids don't want to have this somebody else taking that young child mode and sharing attention.
Absolutely
Nobody wants that. So it's going to take a little bit to unravel. So we went over, like, he asked questions, and it was like he put a blanket over the baby's head. And I know that dad didn't prepare him for, a baby. And I do, because it's just sometimes people just don't think of it. And because child development is my realm, I'm obviously
yeah.
He puts my son puts the thing over his head, and I said, "Oh no, baby, we never put a blanket over a baby's head." And he said, "Well, what if daddy or blah, blah, blah says it's okay because they make the rules of the house?" And I go, that's a really good point about the rules in the house. But I know for a fact that daddy is going to also say that you never put a blanket over a baby's head. So I just know that. And I said, even if we ask daddy, he's going to say the same thing. Yeah. So,
man,
and then I also say, like, we always ask this dad question. So I say, I need you to listen to blah, blah, blah's directions with it's really important. And because he always asks dad, but it's like, what if he's not there? And and then he's trying to do all these things. And because he's not used to asking her for, things to do, because he sees daddy as like, this new person is, not so warm up to. It's like, no, you need to ask, and you also need to follow directions, because she's the mommy. And mommy knows things about her baby like you. Yeah. And then blah, blah, blah knows things about her baby. And daddy knows things too. But if daddy's not there,
it's like, it's really just hitting me like in the face right now, like how you give your child permission to have that relationship with them. Like, just like, it's not like, hey, you need to go be friends with her. Right. But it's just like showing them how to have a relationship. Man, this has been crazy good. Like, Kev, I know you got to go, man. We gotta do this again, Jen. Before we get out of here, what are like one or two things? Kev, you got to go ahead and go, man. But Jen, what are one or two things that you want to leave people with?
What I want to leave people with is that child development and understanding child development plays a huge role in co-parenting, because that's the whole focus of co-parenting. And when we understand a child's natural behaviors, we have the ability to not take things personally as what we would do if we didn't understand. And because there is that dynamic and that conflict between, the past relationship, it's these things that our children do or say or how they behave is going to take it more personally to begin with.
Yeah.
So if you understand child development, you realize, oh, this is normal. Not like dad is feeding him sugar all the time, so dad's a bad dad. So when he comes home from his dad's house, he's bouncing off the walls. But it's like, isn't that cool that like he has, a person in his life who spoils him and stuff like that? Because you have because that whole Disneyland dad, I don't like that stuff, because
first
it's like,
of all, I hate Disneyland, so there's a whole thing.
But it's like, why would you dog somebody for giving your kids like a fun environment? Like, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, but it's like, I think a lot of times the whole Disneyland dad thing comes from like, yeah, you're just creating a fun environment, but you're not actually like building a relationship and developing. I don't know if developing is the right word, because that sounds corporate as hell too, but like help guiding and nurturing and raising a kid, right? It's just that like, oh, we're going to have fun. We're going to do all these things, but we're not actually going to have rules. And we're just going to like.
Well, play is a huge part in child development.
I'm all for play. But then it's like, I'm just saying, I think the negative connotation comes like, oh, we're going to stay up as late as we want. We're going to watch a scary movie. But again, it comes back to values, rules, things like that. And so probably why you guys aren't together. Not you, but just.
No, any relationship. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole big difference, is different parenting styles, because it's based on values, and you don't have the same values anymore. So, and that's what I help parents with. I help parents navigate the different parenting styles to invite collaboration so that the common goal is met and the child can thrive.
I feel like you said that before. like once or twice, maybe in your career. Where can the people find you? Besides at dadsonpurpose.com/resources, because she's going to be there.
Yes. I am primarily on Instagram. So you can find me at Single Parenting Solutions on Instagram. You can also find me on my website, www.singleparentingsolutions.com. Right now, it's going to be back up next week. I'm doing a little construction of rebranding. So it will be up. My services with links are going to be on there too. There's always a link in bio for a consultation call. And we, figure out if we're going to be a good match with clients and things like that. So if you vibe with my content on Instagram, then I don't know, we can partner up.
I love it. And like if you guys are on the show, you either like me or you like Kev or you like the information. Chances are you probably like a combination of them. And so if you like us, you're probably going to like her content because the sarcasm, the wit, you could feel it. You could feel the energy. Like, come on, y'all. But anyways, been a fantastic episode. Thank you so much. We're going to have to do this again. Everybody out there in podcast land, like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast, and take care. God bless. We'll see y'all next week. We out of here.